this is Spartan Commander, and this is 185th Rome Total War Brotherhood game that I put onto YouTube. The team I'm in today consists of Brotherhood member Spartan Leonidas, who has bought the Rome SBQR faction. And then we have Brotherhood member Killer B. Now if you notice, his name is Balik, but can you see that his name is actually Killer B? If you read it from back to front, you'll see it says Killer B. So it's a bit of a crafty way to put his name there, but if you look, you can see it is Killer B if you look at it from right to left. And he has bought the Greek cities faction. And then we have Brotherhood member Crazy Wolf, who has bought the Rome Julio faction. And then myself, Spartan Commander, who has bought the Rome Scipio faction. So there's our team there. This has got the ingredients to be a great battle. And here is the other team. We have IOW All of Christendom, who has bought the Rome Bruto faction. And then we have an RTW player who's called himself Master Blaster, but is in fact Scorpion King SR, and he has bought his Seleucid army. As you know, Scorpion King has been playing RTW for years, and I see he's got his Silver Shield Legionnaires at the front of his formation there. Obviously the Legionnaires can throw pilers there, so they're quite good as a piler shield unit. And then we have the Silver Shield Pikemen with their long pikes. So that's the infantry there. Looks quite good. Now we move on to the infamous Seleucid Cataphract Cavalry. Can you see the upgrades? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 upgrades on these Cataphract Cavalry. As you know, we sometimes call them the tanks of the ancient world because of how well armoured they are. And with these massive upgrades on, there you are, you can see how well armoured they are. And as I say, with the massive upgrades they've got on them, make no mistake, these cavalry can be battle-changing cavalry. So it'll be interesting to see how we do up against those tanks of the ancient world. And you can see Scorpion King has bought some archers as well to give him a bit of archer cover. And then their third player is an RTW player called Dio. As I said in the past, sometimes good RTW players come on using different names. And as you can see here, Dio has bought the Carthage faction there. It looks a pretty solid army to me. And looking at the upgrades on his infantry, I think this army could be a pretty formidable force to try and take on there. I see he's got quite a dense formation of pikemen, and then he's got his Balearic slingers, long range slingers that do a lot of damage. So all in all, not a bad army, but I've noticed he's got no cavalry. I think the reason for that is that he's bought this army deliberately to take on our Greek cities ally there. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there in that tussle. And then we have IOW Bubo, who has bought the Macedon faction. As you know, Bubo plays with pike factions mostly, and he's got very good with them. So whether you see Bubo across the battlefield with a pike army, you know you're in for a real challenge. So there's the other team there. I think looking at their armies and the players, this has got the ingredients to be a classic battle, and I hope you enjoy it. Okay, at this very early stage of the battle, you can see that both teams are forming up. But can you see that the Carthage player, Dio, has bought some Balearic slingers across here. Just going to pause the game for a second, just for us to take stock of what exactly is happening there. He's bringing his Balearic slingers across here with a view to try and kill as many of SL's troops as he can by shooting them in the flanks and as well as they're moving. If your troops move when they get hit by missiles, you can inflict even more damage. Now the problem is, new players watching this, can you see that he's bought his slingers out, but he's got no cavalry to support those slingers? Okay, so he's really sending them out. They're kind of a bit exposed. He may be counting on his allies' cavalry to support his slingers there. But those slingers are a little bit exposed if any of our teams send cavalry in. So let's see what happens. As you can see here, the slingers are moving forward. He's got a good idea there, shooting slingshot into the side of moving Roman infantry, but he's brought them out a long way. Now, if you've seen that, Spartan Leonidas, with all his years of experience there, got 2 cavalry units out of wedge formation. They're in a normal formation, so they move fast, and he's charging them into those slingers. Okay, so the new players watching this, can you see those slingers were brought out a bit forward, a bit too much towards the enemy there without cavalry support. So now SL's 2 cavalry units there can do a lot of damage to those slinger units there. As I say, the basic idea of bringing the slingers out to inflict casualties on moving infantry by shooting them in the flank was quite a good idea, but without the cavalry support, and those slingers were very exposed, and you saw what happened to them there. Okay, meanwhile over on our side here, you can see that there's a gap between our Greeks. Let's just pause the game for a second. Right, new players watching this, the last thing you want to do is have a gap between your armies. Now can you see here that there is a massive gap between our Greek cities ally and our SBQR ally there, and if the enemy were closer they could pour infantry in through that gap, they could put a blocking force off to the left to stop reinforcements getting through, and they could seriously attack Spartan Leonidas on our right with cavalry and everything. So there's a big gap there. If you notice that Killer's put his archer units in there, probably with a view to kind of a little bit of a blocking force there if he can, but what we need to do is that, see, this is where how you need your armies. They're that close. You don't want a big gap like this. As I say, that's inviting trouble, and it wouldn't surprise me if the enemy bangs some cavalry in there just to cause some mischief. They're a bit too far away to get infantry in that gap, but cavalry could well get in there and cause some mischief. And if we don't react quickly with our own cavalry, poor old Killer could lose a lot of his archer units there if the enemy is quick enough to send cavalry in that gap. Now the only reason I think SL's not moved his infantry up is because he's worried about suffering casualties from missile troops if he moves his infantry. But maybe it might be a good idea to move his infantry up there even if, and take the casualties just to close that massive gap up. As I say, that is a very opening target for the enemy there, for their cavalry. As you can see, can you see Scorpion King there, bringing his Seleucid tank cavalry forward, plus the Macedon fast-moving general. Now my guess is what they'll be after is the Cretan archers. Killer's Cretan archers. See, they're making a beeline for Cretan archers there. And we've got no cavalry out there at the moment to be able to stop those enemy cavalry. Right, if you can see, I've got my Scipioid cavalry coming down. Let's just pause the game for a second. As you can see here, the Seleucid tank cavalry 2 units and the Macedon fast-moving general cavalry's got through. You can see I'm bringing my Scipioid cavalry down to try and counter those cavalry attacking Killer's archers. I know Killer was very annoyed that we kind of didn't move quicker to get down to support his archers, and he was quite right there. We should have seen what was going to happen. And also, can you see 4 units of the Seleucid tank cavalry here? Now my guess is what he'd like to do with those is charge into the flank of SL's moving infantry. Now this is what I think he's going to do. He can cause a lot of casualties on that infantry if he smashes into them and move into flank. Right, there you go. Can you see that Seleucid tank cavalry trying to hit the flank of Spartan Leonidas' infantry there? But luckily Spartan Leonidas saw the danger there and has kind of set up his formation, and now you can see that Scorpion King's moving his cavalry back from that position because he doesn't want all those pilots going into his elite cavalry. Meanwhile, you can see that the fast-moving Macedon general is still attacking the archers there, but if we try and get him with our heavy cavalry, we'll just be running around in circles because he knows that he can outrun us. Okay, over here on the right flank here, you can see that Spartan Leonidas has now set his formation up, and you can see the Macedon pikemen moving towards him. If you notice, there's a bit of accumulation of cavalry out here to the right. I wonder if the tactic of the enemy would be to pin SL with the pikes and charge in with the cavalry. As you can see, the enemy Carthage general here has become extremely aggressive and has charged his army into our Greek cities ally. Right, let's just pause the game here for us to take stock of what's happening. Over on our left flank here, you can see that Crazy Wolf, our ally there, is facing the enemy Brutii army there. But if you notice, the Seleucid army has moved right the way down to the centre. Can you see I'm moving my army down to shadow the Seleucid army? So what I would do is set up behind probably my Greek cities ally there to support him against the Seleucid pikemen that have moved down there. As you can see here in the centre right, our Greek cities ally is being aggressively attacked by the Carthage general there. If that Carthage general breaks through in that centre right position, then I think that would probably be very dangerous for our for our team there. Meanwhile, over on our right here, you can see the Macedon army advancing on our teammate Spartan Leonidas, and a worrying accumulation of enemy cavalry out to our right. That's lots of good enemy cavalry there, and if those pikemen pin SL's infantry and those cavalry charge in from the flank, then we could well have a mass rout there on our right flank. Let's see what the enemy are going to do here. If you notice, I bring in my Scipii cavalry over as I spotted the danger there. 6 units of my cavalry there, which will try and, if you like, counter any attack by the enemy cavalry. If you notice that Spartan Leonidas is bringing some infantry units out as well to protect his right flank. A nice little move there by Spartan Leonidas. So that infantry that he's moving out, plus my cavalry, plus my guess is that Crazy Wolf would bring his Julii cavalry over as well. Yep, there he is, he's bringing them over as well. That should be enough to counter that cavalry, I'm hoping anyway. There's a general overview of the battle there. As you can see, the Carthage sacred band moving forward. If you notice, I tucked my Scipii army in behind my Greek city's ally there, as I see that a lot of the Seleucid pikemen have settled in behind. And over on our left flank here, you can see that our Julii teammate there is now moving into the centre with his infantry as well. Maybe that centre position here where the Carthage attacking Greek cities could be a pivotal part of the battle, because of course if they break through there in our left centre, then that could cause us all kinds of problems. Okay, if you notice, I'm moving my Scipii army down a little bit because I've noticed a gap between Spartan Leonidas and our Greek city's ally there, so I've moved my Scipii army down there to try and plug that gap. There's a general overview of the battle as it stands at the moment. If you notice that the Seleucid tank cavalry have moved over to the centre now, have moved over from the right flank to the centre, as I guess they've seen all that infantry and my cavalry and Crazy's cavalry there, so he doesn't really want to stay there much longer. Probably looking for other opportunities on the battlefield to use that tank cavalry, but we must always be aware of that, because as I said, that has got the potential to be battle changing cavalry, so we must always, as I say, watch that. Okay, in the centre left here, it looks to me like the enemy Carthage army is making inroads into our Greek city's ally. So if you notice, I'm going to send a couple of my Scipii infantry over to charge into the flank, the exposed flank of those Carthage pikemen, with a view to try and rout them if I can, and take a bit of pressure off of my my Greek city's ally. So if you notice, I sent 3 of my Scipii units over there, and if you notice, it's done the trick. It's managed to rout some of those enemy Carthage infantry there. So remember, new players watching this, team battles is all about just that, team battles, helping your teammates out when you need to. So if you notice there, those Scipii troops I sent over, I've routed those, but if you notice, I'm pulling them back now because I don't want to take those Seleucid pikemen on head on. Remember what we've talked about in the future, Roman generals don't really like to take pikes head on. Okay, let's pause the game for a second just to take stock of exactly what's happening. If you notice here, Crazy's moved his archers out there with a view to shoot arrows into the flank of the enemy. He's got a lot of infantry over in the centre, and he's still got infantry here on the left to hold if they attack. As I say, in the left centre here, you can see our Greek city's ally is still in a big tussle with the Carthage enemy sacred band troops there. And if we move over to our right centre, you can see that my troops are facing Macedon and Seleucid. And if we go over to the right flank, you can see that Spartan Leonidas' SBQR army is still facing the aggressive Macedon and some Seleucid pike units there. There you go, there's a testudo unit. This is the formation that most generals, Roman generals, use when they face an aggressive attack by pikemen. This testudo, as you can see, is all-round protection, and it tends to slow up a pike attack and can even disrupt the pike line as it moves forward. So, as I say, that's a standard tactic by a Roman general to try and counter aggressive pike attacks. So I say there's a general overview of the battle there. Right, now I'm just going to pause the game for a second here. Now you just had a look all over the battlefield there, and what I'm going to do is ask you a tactical question. If you were in charge of my 6 units of cavalry there, what would you do with that cavalry? What do you think you would do, looking at the overview of the battle? Would you take the cavalry maybe out to the right flank here to protect against that Brutii cavalry? Is that something that you would do? Or maybe would you take the cavalry over to the left flank, over here? See that Seleucid tank cavalry moving over there? Maybe take the cavalry over there to do that. There's nothing in the centre. Can you see there's so many pikes in the centre? There's nothing to do with the cavalry. I could do with the cavalry in the centre there. So having a look at the general overview of the battle, what would you do with these cavalry units? In a tactical sense, what do you think? As I say, moving around to the flanks, maybe? What do you think you would do? Interesting. Okay, let's see what happens. Right, can you see I'm attacking with my infantry, but I'm attacking a specific target here. Can you see the target that I'm attacking with my Scipio infantry? Can you see my infantry attacking there? Okay, I'm just going to pause the game here for a second. If you notice, I have noticed that the Seleucid general is there, and the general is on the left flank of the general unit. If we just close in, we can have a look. Right, so there's a Seleucid general there, standing there on the left flank of that general unit. Now remember, Seleucid morale is not very good anyway, so if I can kill that general, I'm going to lower the morale of the troops even more. So let's see what happens. And bang, as that cavalry goes in.
Great gods be praised! The enemy general is
and
killed.
Kills the Seleucid general there. So that tactic worked out quite well with the cavalry. If you notice, I charged the infantry in first, and then that worked out quite well. Meanwhile, over on our left flank here, you can see that the enemy now are very aggressively attacking our ally Crazy Wolf with his Julii army over on that left flank. So let's just pause the game for a second. Right, so as you can see on the left flank here, the enemy are being extremely aggressive. There's some cataphract tank cavalry involved over there. There's Seleucid silver shield legionnaires plus the Brutii, enemy Brutii attacking there. Meanwhile, in our left centre, if you look now, can you see there's not a lot of our Greek cities allies units left. So the Carthage army is really starting to tell there on our Greek cities ally in the centre. Remember what I said? This could be a pivotal part of the battle. If they break through here, there could be real problems. Can you see that Crazy Wolf has put some Julii infantry in behind our ally? Meanwhile, over here on our right centre, you can see that I've got my Scipio infantry facing the pikes. And over on our right flank here, you can see that a lot of SL's units there are not being used. Completely fresh units. You've got 8 units of urban cohorts there at the moment. I presume he's keeping them for later, so they'll be fresh to use. But meanwhile, over on our left flank here, as I say, things are looking bad. Okay, now I noticed that Crazy Wolf's cavalry is going to go for the Seleucid cavalry here to take them out. But what I've noticed is there's a big clump of enemy infantry there. And what I'm thinking is if I could smash in with my cavalry into that big clump of engaged enemy infantry, we could do a lot of damage. There's my cavalry, my Scipio cavalry going in. And bang, as that cavalry hits. If you notice with the impact of that cavalry charging into those engaged enemy troops, we have routed a lot of the enemy infantry there. Okay, now if you notice there, I've hit them, routed a lot of the units and pulled back straight away. So if you notice, I got the full cavalry charge bonus, done the damage I wanted to, and pulled out. I don't want to get into a trench battle with those infantry, because that caused me a lot of casualties with my cavalry. Just done the damage and pull out. New players watching this. If you notice, there's a couple of Macedon cavalry units charging into the back of our units there. They've got in behind us. And bang, as that cavalry hits. So now you can see my Scipio infantry units there are sandwiched between the Macedon pikes and those Macedon cavalry units there. So once again, there's a general overview of the battle. As you can see, there's a lot of action happening in the centre here. A lot of enemy aggressive action going on there. Okay, over on our left flank here, I think Crazy and myself are charging our cavalry in here to try and finish off the enemy Brutii infantry on our left flank. Okay, so it looks like we've managed to to rout the general on our right flank here. But if you notice, the enemy have penetrated our centre. Can you see cavalry units have just pushed through? And if you notice, there's lots of cavalry units in behind us. Just pause the game for a second, just to show you there's lots of cavalry, as I said, enemy cavalry in behind us now. And that is always a bad sign, that is, because they can pick our troops out, pick the back of our troops out or engage and smash into the rear. Our left flank, we seem to have broken the enemy there. If you notice that the centre is still a very aggressive battle stage there. As you see, most of our Greek cities allies been killed, but Crazy Wolf has put a lot of his Julii infantry over there to shore up our centre left. And meanwhile, over on our right, you can see the SLs moving those fresh units that we were talking about earlier around the right there, to probably with a view to get in behind those Macedon pikemen there. Remember what we said about Roman generals don't like to take pikemen head on. It's really the flank or the rear we kind of aim for there. So there's a general overview of what's actually happening at this stage of the battle. As you can see, the enemy pikes have spotted that we've taken out the left and have moving pike units over to cover to stop us charging cavalry in there. So that's a nice strategic move by them. As I say, the enemy Carthage army here seems to be doing extremely well. But remember, we saw the upgrades on that infantry, so I suppose it's not surprising how well they're doing there. You say you got a lot of enemy cavalry in behind us charging into our units. Right, if you notice, I've taken my Scipii cavalry right over to our far flank with a view to smash into the back of engaged enemy pike units. But their pike general spotted that and turned the pike unit to face me. So I don't want to tangle with pikes there head on, so I'm going to pull my cavalry back. If you notice there, that was quite a good thing to do, really, because sometimes you can get a bit of blood, your blood gets up and you could carry on with that charge. Well, all that have happened there is probably I'd have lost most of my cavalry, so needed to pull that cavalry back now. But if you notice now, that kind of cavalry standing in behind the enemy troops is like the hammer cocked on a rifle, and I'm just waiting to see where I'm going to hit. Okay, let's pause the game for a second. Okay, so there's an overview of the battle there. As you can see on our right flank here, Spartan Leonidas with his SBQR army is attacking the Macedon units there, both in the rear and the front as well. So that's what's happening on the right. If we just move to the rear there, you can see a lot of enemy cavalry there are still behind us. So that's not very good for our team. If you notice there's a lot of Macedon pike and Seleucid pikemen there as well. So like a massive hedge of pikes there. And over on the left, if you notice that I'm moving my infantry in to try and roll up their centre if I can. Okay, so there's a general overview of the battle. Okay, I've got another cavalry tactical question to ask you. If you were in charge of my cavalry here, these 6 units, where do you think a target is that you would like to hit? If you look on that overall battlefield, where would you think you'd like to move my cavalry? Maybe smash into the flank of that Macedon pike unit, or into the rear of that pike unit? How about taking a chance of smashing down the side of that pike unit and trying to take out all those pikes, or even into the back of those pike units there? Lots of those pikes are expecting a charge, so I don't want to go in there. What if I took the cavalry out to the maybe out to the right flank or something like that over there, and maybe charge in at an angle to try and get into the back of those Seleucid pikemen? But if you were in charge of this cavalry, what's a target? Where would you hit with that cavalry? Interesting. Okay, let's see what happens. Right, if you notice my Scipii general and another unit, I've moved forward. Okay. Right, now I'm attacking, and where I'm trying to attack through to that Brutii general there. Okay, so the Brutii general's got his back to my cavalry, which is what I wanted. Now, right now I'm charging my Scipii cavalry in, and bang, as that cavalry goes straight into the back of that Brutii general, trying to kill him to lower the morale of his troops. Okay, there. So we've routed the Brutii general now, and that would have lowered the morale of the Brutii troops. Remember, going for the general. If you kill the general, no matter what faction it is, if you kill or rout the general, you lower the morale of all his troops there. So also, if you notice, that cavalry charge has routed a lot of tired enemy pike units there as well. Managed to to take out quite a few of those as well there in that cavalry charge. So over on our right flank here, the Macedon pikemen are still doing extremely well. But if you notice, I've got my cavalry out to the rear. Now what I'm be looking to do here is obviously charge into the back of those engaged enemy pikemen there. Now if I can take out those enemy pikemen there, they're all very tired. Those enemy tired will be winded, tired, and they're battle damaged as well. So I think that the shock of this cavalry impact could well start a mass rout of those Macedon units. And bang, as that cavalry goes in. I think the Macedon general has actually just admitted defeat there when he saw what happened there. So it looks like our team has managed to go on to win this battle. But if you look how many units we've got left, you can see that I think this is going to be only a close victory. None of us have got a lot of infantry or cavalry left here. So my guess is it is going to be a close victory. If you look over on our left, you can see that some of the enemy Brutii infantry have rallied, and are putting up a bit of a fight there with some battle damaged Brutii units there. But I just wanted to show you the battlefield here on how spread out this battlefield is from one flank to the other. You can see the real piles of dead, and especially where those the Carthage and the Greek cities were fighting, masses of dead on the battlefield in that spot there. So you see Crazy Wolf just thrown his cavalry into attacking that Brutii infantry, and if you notice to the right, can you see my Scipii cavalry coming in as well? Bang! As that Scipii cavalry hits, throwing enemy troops up into the air there, and I think that was the last of the enemy troops to have been routed there. Right, the first thing I'd like to say is really well played to everybody in the game. It was nice to see how aggressive the tactics were by the enemy team right from the beginning of the game. Really well played to them. And as I said, you see, it's a close victory. It was really close there. I thought all the enemy team played extremely well there. But also I'd like to say really well played to Crazy, Killer and Spartan Leonidas. I thought the teamwork that they did, the defence work and everything was really good. And well done to Dio as well, RTW player Dio, with his biggest kills of the enemy team there. So well done to him. So really well played to everybody in the game. As I say, our team got some reasonable kills there, but the enemy did very well as well, and that's why it's only a close victory. I thought we'd have a look at, if you like, the kills of my army there. If you notice, the cavalry seemed to have a lot of big kills in that battle there for the small amount of casualties that they suffered, and even some of my infantry did quite well against the enemy troops there. So so my army didn't do too badly there, and I think mine might have been maybe the smallest army on the battlefield, possibly. Yes, it was. Anyway, just like to say, I hope you enjoyed this battle, and if you've enjoyed other Brotherhood battles as well, it'd be great if you'd like to subscribe to our channel. It's always really nice to have new subscribers, and if you like the battles, please subscribe. It's Spartan Commander saying bye for now.